Hi, guys and gals and all those in between. This is Mr. Mike. We're going to go over Algebra 1A, Module 1, Lesson 2, adding and subtracting real numbers today. Woo! Okay, the first thing I want to kind of clarify, something that I kind of probably should have mentioned in the previous lesson, is what the difference between a minus sign and a negative sign. Okay, so here's our trusty number line, and we learned yesterday that the zero is at the middle of it, and that all the positive numbers ascending are to the right of it, and all the negative numbers descending, going down, are to the left of it. And what might not have been clear yesterday, because I didn't clarify it, is that these are not minus signs necessarily, even though they look exactly the same. A minus sign, if I have something like 5 minus 3, is telling me to take away this number, the number after the minus sign, from the positive number. It's an action. It's like a verb if you're good at grammar, which I'm not, right? It's telling me to do something. 5 minus 3. It's equal to 2. Got it. These little dashes, they're negative signs, and they're saying we're not talking about this one to the right of 0. We're talking about the one to the left of 0. They kind of like more orient us to direction about where that number is on the number line. They're more like adjectives, again, if you're a grammar nerd. So it's like saying the tiny dog versus the dog, if that makes sense. All right. So they're a little bit different. Sometimes we need to be able to distinguish between them. When is the negative sign telling us to do something, and when is it identifying what the number is? Okay, I just wanted to make that clear before we move on, and which we're going to do now. And we may get back to that a little bit later. All right, so adding and subtracting integers or real numbers. Bling. So if I have something like, let's say 2 plus 3, and that's a pretty straightforward addition problem. And if I have 2 apples and I have 3 more apples, I end up with 5 apples, right? 2 plus 3. Let me build out this number line just a little bit more so we have everything here. Here's what this looks like on the number line. I'm going to model it for you. I have 2 starting at 0. And I have 3. I'm going to denote them as lengths, right? I'm going to take that second number, this length, and I'm going to move it, the tail, to the head of the first number, right? So I'm going to keep its length, 1, 2, 3. And there it is at 5. Okay? So this is 2 plus 3 is 5. Okay. Now, what happens if I have a negative number? 2 plus a negative 3. Bum, bum, bum. Okay, well, I'm going to draw a negative 3 out. Remember that the negative is going to go 1, 2, 3. And now I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to take the head of that and I'm going to move it to the tail of this. And I'm going to preserve its length. 1, 2, 3. I'm just going to erase it from here so it's not confusing. This is kind of, and here's my answer. Up, 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 up. negative 1. All right, we're going to do a few more on the number line, and then we're going to look at this from a couple of different ways in which we could solve this. But let's do a few more really quick. Actually, we only really need to do one more. Oops, sorry guys. Just bear with me while I fix my annotation tool here. I know you can't see what I'm doing, but oh, good grief, Charlie Brown. Here we go. Boom, -1. That going. We're gonna do -2 plus -3. So now we have two negatives, where before we had we started off with two positives, and then we went to a negative and a positive, and now we're gonna do it with two negatives, okay? Same process using this number line. I go 2 to the left, because that's where my -2 is, and then my 3 is 3 to the left, that's where my 3 is. I'm going to take the tail of that second number and I'm going to put it right on top of the first number. And I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. And look, here I am at -5. Okay. So another way of thinking about this is like particle counting, I like to call it. So if I have a positive charge, right? Let's erase some of this. Because that worked so well the first time. If I have a positive charge, we're going to say, I don't know, 1 plus 3. These are both positive numbers, right? Every positive charge is going to cancel out any negative charge, all right? But two positive charges are going to come together to make more positive charges. So if I have one positive charge here, I'm going to list it as 1. If I have 3 positive charges here, I'm going to list it as 3. How many positive charges do I have total? 1, 2, 3, 4. Addition. Pretty straightforward, okay? How about if I have a -1 though, plus a +3? Well, in this case, I have 1 negative charge and I have 3 positive charges. Well, the negative charge and the positive charge are going to cancel each other out. They're going to go to 0. So what am I left with? 2 positive charges. Let's see, we'll do 2 more. What if I have a +1 plus a -3? I have a positive charge here, a negative charge here. And what do I want to do? Well, one of those things is going to cancel out. And now I have 2 negative charges. So this is going to be equal to -2. And I want to point out that the 1 and the 3 are the same number, but the negatives, where the negatives are different, right? And the only difference between the answer is that one's negative and one's positive. We'll come back to that in a second. And we'll do one more of these if we have 2 negative numbers, like a -1 plus a -3. I have 1 negative charge, 3 negative charges. I have 4 negative charges. This is equal to -4. Okay, so 2 methods of solving addition and subtraction when you're dealing with, or addition, because we haven't looked at subtraction yet, addition problems when you have when you're dealing with both the negative and the positive real numbers. But let's take a look at one more method, and then we will get into the assignment, or actually we'll get into subtraction, and then we'll get into the assignment. Bye, guys. Bye, bye. I just don't want to erase the number line just yet. Actually, I do want to erase the number line. Yeah. You know what? It doesn't even matter. I'm just going to do a new screen. Sorry, guys, bear with me. Clearly, I haven't taught this lesson before. Well, oh. Okay, so one more approach. This is the one that I kind of almost like the best because I think it's funny. This is called party or war approach. Party war approach. We'll just call it party war approach. This is for adding, okay? So with the party war approach, we're going to look at -4 plus 3, and then we can look at 4 plus -3, and we can look at +4 plus +3, and we can look at -4 plus -3. Okay, so what the party war approach says is, hey, if the sides are the same, I'm gonna write this out. If the side, not sides, come on. If the signs are the same, and by signs, I mean, this is a negative, is telling us where it is on the number line. This is a negative. This is a negative. These are negatives. These positive signs are telling us what to do. We're adding these guys together. And whenever you don't see something, like there's nothing around this 4, there's nothing around this 3, there's nothing around this 4, then there's nothing around this 3, we assume that they're positive numbers always, okay? So if the signs are the same, and you add because it's a party. All right. So where the signs are, where are the signs the same? The signs are the same here. Both the 4 and the 3 are positive. And here, both the 4 and the 3 are negative. So this is telling us if the signs are the same, then you add because it's a party. So what's 4 plus 3? 4 plus 3 is 7. What's 4 plus 3? 4 plus 3 is 7. But clearly they can't be the same because there's such a different looking problems, right? And that would be correct. So the sign of the answer is the sign of the numbers. And they're going to be the same because that's the whole point of the party. So 4 plus 3, and here in this case, they're positive. So we're going to leave that as a positive 7. But in this case here, the 4 and the 3 are negative. So the answer is going to be negative. 4 plus 3 is positive 7. -4 plus -3 is -7. If this were a real world application, I would say I have $4, I make another $3, I have $7. In the case of the negative numbers, I have a $4 debt. Someone adds $3 more worth of debt. I'm at -7. Bummer. Okay. Let me see if I can move this around. Can I do that? No. Okay, I don't think I can. But I'll write it down here. If the signs are different, you subtract because it's a war. Okay, so 4 and 3, the signs are different. Here we have a -4 and a +3. when we're subtracting, it makes most sense for us to take the smaller number and take that away from the bigger number. So 4 minus 3 is 1. Same case here. The smaller number is 3, the bigger number is 4. 4 minus 3 is 1. Basic subtraction. Okay, but again, are they the same answer? I don't think so, because they look a whole lot different when we look at them, right? So what is the answer? Give me a text, send me a text box. The sign of the answer is the sign of the number with the biggest absolute value. And we talked about absolute value in the last lesson. Absolute value is the number's distance from 0. So it's -4 is technically a much smaller number than 3 because it's to the left of it, but its absolute value is bigger because it's further from 0 than 3. The 4 is bigger than the 3. So the number that has the biggest absolute value is going to give its sign to the answer. In this case, the 4 is bigger than the 3. The 4 is negative. The answer is negative. In this case, the 4 is still bigger than the 3. The 4 is positive. The answer is positive. All right. So a whole bunch of different ways to solve these addition and subtraction problems. All right. We're going to clear all that. I think actually, yeah, let's clear all that. Stop sharing that. Here I am. Hi. Let's me pull up lesson and we'll bounce to that and then we'll do the quiz and then that'll be it. Okay. So unit 1, lesson 2, adding and subtracting, yada, yada, yada. In this lesson, you will be developing algorithms, i.e. processes for adding and subtracting positive and negative numbers. That's what we've been talking about. If you were playing a game and had 10 points and lost 15 points, why would you be in the negative? I'm going to let you answer that. I'm not going to give that one away. Let's see what else you got. So if you start at +5 and added 40, your sum is, my approach to these problems would be to write them out with numbers, right? So 5 added plus 40. And now we could even plug that into a calculator if we needed to, but I know the answer to that is 45. If you start at -5 and added -10, your sum is, well, is this a party or a war would be my question. Well, it's a party because they're both negative numbers. So we know when it's a party, we're going to add the two of them together, which is 15. And the sign is going to be the same sign as the numbers. -15. I use these ideas about addition to develop an I struggle with that word, algorithm for addition of integers. Okay. Okay, I'm actually not going to do this with you guys because I gave a pretty thorough explanation. If you have questions, you can go ahead and email me, but I do want you to really try to think about this and come up with your answers. Again, recall that these assignments and the practice and the discussions, they're just graded for completion. And I don't say just to diminish it. I say just because I don't want you to go into it stressed, right? Just engage the material, think about it. Being wrong is not the worst thing in the world. It just provides you an opportunity to learn how to be right. All right. I want Okay, so it actually doesn't get too deep into subtraction here, but I want to talk about subtraction kind of briefly, because I don't want you to get too hung up on it because it's actually not too tricky. We're going to stop share. And I'm going to share my whiteboard with you. Okay, so here's the deal about subtraction. We're just going to say 3 minus 2. We know what this is from earlier mathematics, right? 3 minus 2 is 1. But it's going to get complicated when we start to have negative numbers. But we just, because we talked about really thoroughly how to solve addition problems. So what I want you to do is to always convert a subtraction problem moving forward into an addition problem. How do you do that? Think about this minus sign as instead of meaning subtraction, think of it as meaning add the opposite of the next number of the number to the right. Okay, so what do I mean by the number to the right? So I'm going to say 4 minus 2. Here's the subtraction sign. We're going to think of it as add the opposite of the number to the right. The 2 is the number to the right. What's the opposite of 2? It's the number to the left of 0 that has the same distance from to 0, which is -2. Add the opposite of the number to the right. So this is going to become 4 plus the number to the right. Opposite of the number to the right. And we've just reviewed really thoroughly how to do this problem. So here's what it's going to look like. Let's clear all that. I'm going to give you a bunch of them. There's another teacher here at 5 Keys that has a kind of a funny way of remembering how to do this. She calls it the bop bop rule. And I'll show you what that is. I don't know, pick a number. Let's say 8. Okay. Okay, the bop bop rule. I'm going to add the opposite of the number to the right. I'm adding, and this is the opposite of 4. I'm adding, what's the opposite of -2? +2. I'm adding, what's the opposite of 1? -1. Excuse me, sorry. I'm adding, what's the opposite of -8? +8. And notice when it's a positive number, I don't necessarily write the little positive sign like I do with the negative. We just assume that it's positive if there's nothing else denoting otherwise. Okay, so the bop bop rule. When you see the negative, you bop, bop. Plus -4, plus -4. The bop bop rule. Bop, bop. See how that negative became a positive? Bop, bop. There it is. Bop, bop. The bop bop rule. Okay. So let's look at this. 3, just to review really quickly, 3 plus -4. Are we talking party or are we talking war? Well, it's a war because the signs are different, right? What's 4 minus 3? 4 minus 3 is 1. How do we know what sign? Well, has the bigger absolute value? 3 or -4? -4 does. So our Sign for our answer is negative because that 4 is bigger and the 4 is negative. -3 plus 2, party or war? Definitely a war because one's negative and one's positive. Which one's bigger? The one that the 3 has a higher absolute value. So I'm going to make the answer is going to be negative. 3 minus 2 is 1. There we go. -3 plus -1. Are we talking party or war? Well, it's a party because the signs are the same. 3 plus 1 is 4. What's our sign? Is it positive or negative? Well, it's negative because the problem, the numbers in the problem are both negative numbers. 3 plus 8, are we talking about a party or a war? It's a party because the signs are the same. 3 plus 8 is 11. And our answer is positive because the 3 and the 8 are 11. All right. So we're not going to go too deep into subtraction anymore because we have a really simple way to turn it into addition, and we did a pretty deep dive into addition. Okay. Stop share. Module 1, I'm working over here on my other screen, so forgive my eyeline for a second. We're going to pull up the quiz for lesson 2, module 1, lesson 2. Here we go. Let's share this guy with y'all. It's a funny little meme, ain't it? Okay, so okay. All right, so here's the rule, right? We're gonna pause the video and take the quiz. So pause the video and go take the quiz. And when you're done, you're gonna restart the video. Pausing the video in 3, 2, 1, 0. Pause it. And you're back. Okay, cool. I hope you got them all correct. If you didn't, we're gonna go over them right now. Feel free to change the answer. You're gonna get 1 extra credit point per answer you got correct. All right, so 4 plus a -12. We're going to discuss a little later what these parentheses mean. Right now, they're putting them there to make it really clear that this isn't a subtraction problem. This is a negative number, okay? So is it a party or is it a war? Well, it's a war because the signs are different. All right. So if I take the smaller number and I pull it out of that 12, 12 minus 4 is 8, but which has a bigger absolute value? Well, the 12 has a bigger absolute value, is further from 0, and it's negative. So the answer is going to be negative. Find the sum of -4 and 12. Oh, I should have said this earlier. Sum means addition, okay? So it's a little redundant because it tells us that it's addition, but at least we know. So -4 plus 12, party or war? Well, it's a war because the signs are different. So I'm going to subtract these two numbers. 4 off of 12 is 8. And which number has the greater absolute value? The 12 does. And the 12 in this case is positive. So our answer is positive 8. The sum of hey, sorry, little annotation problem. The sum of -13 plus 7. Let's do this a slightly different way. We can do our particle counting thing here. We have -13 plus 7. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 negative charges, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 positive charges. These guys are all going to cancel each other out. And I'm left with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 negative charges. So the sum of 13 and 7 is -6. Okay. The difference between 11 and, I think that's meant to be just a -4. Difference always means subtraction. So this is saying the difference between 11 and -4. If I had to write a number sentence for that, this is what I would write. Okay, so we're going to use the BOP rule. We're going to add the opposite of the number that follows the subtraction sign. So I'm going to go BOP, BOP, and I'm going to rewrite this for clarity. I have 11 plus 4, which is 15. So the answer here is false. 2.3 minus 3.1. Oh man, well, we can't use our particle counting. Well, we could, but it gets a little bit complicated because of the decimal and they're not whole numbers. Okay, so 3.1 minus 2.3. I'm going to rewrite it a little bit. I'm going to put the bigger number on top and call it a subtraction problem. But before I do that, let's turn it into an addition problem, because that's what we're doing from now on, right? And we're going to do the BOP rule in order to do that. We're going to add the opposite. I'm going to add the opposite, BOP. So now I have 2.3 plus a negative 3.1. Part of your war, the signs are different. The 2.3 is positive. The 3.1 is negative. Okay. So I'm going to set it up like this. I'm going to subtract the smaller one from the bigger one. And I'm going to end up with 0.8. Now, which one has a bigger absolute value? The 2.3 or the 3.1, which is further from 0? The 3.1 is, and what's the sign on 3.1? It's negative. So the answer is going to be negative. The 3.1 won the war, right? It had a more absolute value. Okay, so yeah, that works for me. Question number 5 is true. Okay. An elevator begins on the ground floor. It travels up 14 floors and then down 6. After this, the elevator travels up 3 floors, up 7 floors, and down 12 floors. What floor does the elevator stop? Oh my gosh. Let's see. So we're going to do a number line here. Let's just do it to the side over here. And I know we're used to seeing I'm going to call this 20. I know we're used to seeing 0 in the middle, but I'm actually going to put 0 at the bottom because the way this problem is formatted, the elevator is never going to drop below 0. Unless it has like a basement or something, but I don't think it does. So first it goes up 14. And then it's going to go down 6. Where does that leave us? Well, if I take 6 from 14, whoops, sorry. I'm at 8, right? So now I'm at 8. After this, the elevator travels up 3 floors. So where does that leave us? Well, if I'm at 8 and I go up 3, I'm going to use addition. Puts me at 11. And then it's going to go, oops, sorry, up 7 floors. And 11 plus 7 gives me 18. Picture not to scale, but I am doing my best to make it to scale. And then it's going to go down 12. So down is going to be subtraction, right? And 18 minus 12 is 6. And that's where it's going to end up at 6. Okay, so I just want to point out that I could have done this a little differently. I could have set it up a little differently. I'll do it up here in a different color. I could have said 14 plus a negative 6 plus 3 plus 7 plus a negative 12. And we're going to see things like this moving forward, which is why I kind of want to spell it out for you a little bit, where there's several steps. What I like to do in a situation like this is group my positives together and group my negatives together. So I'm going to move these around, and I can do that because addition is what we call communicative, meaning that we can flip it around a little bit. So 14 plus 3, I just moved this 3 over, plus 7, plus, now I'm going to work with my negatives, negative 6, plus negative 12. And now I'm going to add up all my positives. I'm going to add up all my negatives. I'm going to do the party thing, right? So 14 plus 3 plus 7 is 24. Six and 12, here's my party, 18, but it's negative because the numbers are negative. Now I have 24 plus negative 18, it's a war, meaning I subtract. 18 off of 24 is 6. Whoever has the bigger absolute value gets the sign. In this case, the 24 has a bigger absolute value. So the sign is positive and our answer is 6. We got the same answer. All right. Okay, guys, and gals and all those in between, that's a whole lot of mathematics. This is one of the trickier parts. This figuring out how to add and subtract like terms. Figuring out how to add and subtract negative and positive integers is definitely one of the harder components of algebra. We're getting it out of the way, and it's really foundational. You need to know it before you can move on, and it's foundational to all math. So even if you don't want to continue down the algebra and geometry line, if you want to go in statistics, if you want to look at I don't know, anything really, this is a financial math. This is going to come into play. So thank you. Good work. If you have any questions, go ahead and shoot me an email and I will address it when I can. Okay, bye.